Hello everyone. I'm Linda Hartling. I'm a founding member of Human Dignity and Humiliation Studies and a lifelong collaborator with Evelyn Lindner, our founding president. I'm excited because I get to present our special way of collaborating as a global community that we call the frame of appreciative inquiry. For those of you who've been with the network for some time, I hope you'll see this video as an affirmation of the important work that you're doing in the world. And for those of you who are new to our community, I hope you'll see the appreciative frame as a positive, powerful, and really practical way for engaging in collaboration, not only in our workshops or in our conferences, but as you take this work out into the world. And I want to start with a few appreciations of people who have contributed to the development of this model. Morton Deutsch, who is considered one of the fathers of the field of conflict resolution, for helping us think deeply about how cooperation cultivates greater cooperation. David Cooperrider and his colleagues at Case Western Reserve University for their initial work on appreciative inquiry that we adopted and adapted for our community. Don Klein, who is a pioneer in the field of community psychology, for his groundbreaking study of the dynamics of humiliation. Jean Baker Miller in Relational Cultural Theory for helping us understand that we can grow best by supporting the growth of others. Arne Ness and the Deep Ecology Movement that helps us understand the interconnections of all life on this planet. And Mike Miller for his work on dignifying dialogue, engaging in dialogue in a way that brings the best ideas to the table by using dignity. But most of all, we want to recognize all of our community, all of you who've contributed to the development of this model over the last decade. I hope you'll hear your voice and your ideas in this presentation, and most of all, I hope that this approach continues to strengthen and inspire and energize your efforts in the world. So what is the frame of appreciative inquiry? Well, in this video, I hope to explain why we use this particular approach. I'm going to name what it is and especially what it isn't, and I'm going to describe the specific ideas and actions that sustain our collaborative frame. So why do we use this appreciative model? Why do we take an appreciative approach? Well, early on in our work, we realized that the dynamics of humiliation are not just out in the world. They are in the room with us. These dynamics are our elephant in the room that's ready to stomp on us at any moment. And the first step of dealing with that elephant is to recognize that it exists. And this cartoon is about that. Here we have an elephant talking to his therapist, and he says, "I'm right here in the room and no one even acknowledges me." Well, we recognize as a community that we are working with an elephant in the room, the dynamics of humiliation. And what is humiliation? Don Klein, when he edited a special edition of the Journal of Primary Prevention in 1991, offered this definition. Humiliation is what one feels when one is ridiculed, scorned, held in contempt, or otherwise devalued for who one is rather than what one does. It can come in at least three forms: the internal experience, those feelings of being humiliated; the external experience, actual being abused or mistreated in some way; and it also can be those social conditions such as systemic injustice. Francisco Gomez de Matos gave us a wonderful mnemonically made checklist of the variations on humiliation that range from discrimination to mortification. And this is only a beginning list. There are many, many forms of humiliation, from the interpersonal level of ridicule, taunting, bullying, to the social level of social economic injustice, stigmatization, social alienation, or intractable conflict on the international level, violence, war, and genocide. Humiliation comes in many forms. When I first started my research in 1991 with Don Klein, I recognized early on that there is almost nothing in the literature about this experience, nothing in the psychological literature. It's only been in the last 10 years or so that we're really seeing some substantial research. And here's one example. Kenneth Kendler and his colleagues conducted a study of over 7,000 twins exploring stressful life events that predict the onset of major depression. And he found that second to the experience of loss, humiliation was the most powerful predictor of the onset of major depression. But even more interestingly, he found that the combination of loss and humiliation was greater than loss alone. Think of all the people who have lost jobs and homes in this terrible economic global crisis, or all of those who've been impacted and displaced as a result of the ongoing conflict in the world. Kenneth Kendler says, when we looked at stressful life events that predispose men and women to the onset of episodes of depression, the most toxic combination was loss and humiliation. So this is an example of some of the research that's available, that's coming out. And actually, the website, the Human Dignity Humiliation Studies website, is a tremendous source for people who are interested in the research on this experience, who will also benefit from having the world's leading, what I consider the world's leading scholar on the experience of humiliation, Evelyn Lindner. And I'm going to let her introduce her work.
Hello, my name is Evelyn Lindner, and I have committed my life to engaging with people and communities around the world to end the cycles of violence resulting from people humiliating or putting other people down. To protect our planet for future generations, we all need to hold hands in equal dignity and lead each other towards a peaceful, sustainable, and richly diverse global community. Your knowledge, your experiences, your creativity and inspiration is needed, wherever it might be, as without your help, the journey to peace and sustainability would take so much longer.
Evelyn's global research teaches us that humiliation is the strongest force that creates rifts between people and breaks down relationships. She calls it the nuclear bomb of emotions. So I think it's important for us to recognize when we come together as a community that we're actually working with the nuclear bomb of emotions. So we need to bring our best skills as we address not only the experience of humiliation in the world, but that elephant in the room. We need all sorts of skills, whether it's bringing in the spirit of aloha, of being aware of others and recognizing that there is value in everyone, or that concept of satyagraha, that love truth that Gandhi talked about. We need everyone's best skills at the table to begin our discussion of humiliation. So what is this appreciative frame? Well, Don Klein, when we first began working in 2003, he was about 80 years old at that time, identified appreciation as an antidote to humiliation. And an appreciative approach, a frame of appreciative inquiry, might be a very useful way of beginning a dialogue on this experience. But he emphasized that one shouldn't confuse appreciative inquiry with mindless happy talk or reframing ideas or positive thinking or even liking what we see or being nice or being a polite. Actually, appreciative inquiry is about engaging in a way that supports the dignity of all as we ask questions, as we struggle with ideas. Don noted that psychology typically takes a glass half empty approach by focusing on the problem, identifying the problem, figuring out how to deal with the problem. And maybe that's not the most useful approach for beginning our discussion on humiliation. Lots of institutions take the glass half empty approach. For example, banks said that the glass was half empty, then they drank it. Well, Dawn described a glass half full approach, which means trying to find out why the glass is half full and how it got to be half full, and then building on those activities so the glass can be filled and overfilled. Essentially, a glass half full approach is about building on strengths, bringing our best ideas together and building on those ideas. And it begins with meeting with a sense of openness and curiosity, awe and wonderment for this work. Every human being, as Don would say, has the capacity to bring a sense of awe and wonder into the work that they're doing. It's the same sense of awe and wonder we experience when we hear a beautiful piece of music or when we see a child take its first step. Or as Don says, it's that awe and wonder you see when you experience a magnificent sunset. So appreciative practice, appreciative inquiry begins with bringing that sense of awe and wonder into the work. But what does that look like in practice? What does appreciative inquiry look like in practice? Well, over the years, thanks to so many of you, we have put together 5 guiding ideas that help us build appreciative inquiry as a sustainable approach to collaborative action. Here are those ideas. 1. Appreciative practice means putting relationships first, walking the talk of equal dignity, because we believe people will grow best when we support the growth of all involved. Indeed, research has established beyond a reasonable doubt that social connectedness is one of the most powerful determinants of our health and well-being, and so we believe we need to keep our group, our network, healthy by putting relationships first. Aaron Gandhi, who's on our Global Advisory Board, reminded us of the 4 important principles of building relationships that he learned from his grandfather. Begin with practicing respect in relationship. Respect leads to understanding. Understanding leads to acceptance, and acceptance leads to appreciation. As the African proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And we are in it for the long haul. We want to go far. We are going together by putting relationships first. Number 2, appreciative practice means realizing that none of us is as smart as all of us. That's why we focus so much on creating dignifying dialogue, recognizing that each of us has something valuable, important, and unique to contribute to this work. And that we all contribute in very different ways. We all come from different backgrounds, different experiences. It also means that we learn to wage good conflict, that we can disagree about something without being disagreeable, that we can disagree and uphold the dignity of everyone involved. That helps us dignify our differences and build a rich sense of unity in our diversity. And those dignifying dialogues don't only happen in the room, they also happen on the coffee breaks. That's where we can engage in those conversations all along the way that help us learn from each other, to help us realize that none of us is as smart as all of us. Appreciative inquiry involves listening each other into voice. Listening and speaking is really a two-way process. We can help each other share our ideas. Carmen Hedaraka, our dear friend New Zealand, reminded us that speaking is great, but listening is better. Listening is one of the greatest acts of love. So we invite you to listen with your whole heart. This is the essence of compassionate listening, seeing the other person next to you as part of yourself. Appreciative practice means listening each other into voice. Appreciative practice also means recognizing that we are really human beings among human beings. We are going to make mistakes. We are going to stumble. We're going to fall. We're going to step on each other's toes. This is part of being a human being among human beings. We think the African concept of Ubuntu is helpful here, and I'm going to have Archbishop Desmond Tutu talk about this concept.
In Africa, recognition of our independence is called Ubuntu. It speaks of the fact that my humanity is caught up and inextricably bound up in yours. I am human because I belong. It speaks about wholeness. It speaks about compassion. A person with Ubuntu is welcoming, hospitable, warm and generous, willing to share. Such people are open and available to others, willing to be vulnerable, affirming of others. Do not feel threatened that others are able and good, for they have a proper self-assurance that comes from knowing that they belong in a greater whole. They know they are diminished when others are humiliated, diminished when others are oppressed, diminished when others are treated as if they were less than who they are.
We are human beings among human beings. We will stumble and fall, but as Nelson and Mandela teaches us, the greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall and helping each other up. That's why we focus on progress, not perfection. When we make mistakes, we apologize and help each other move forward. That's because we are willing to stumble forward together. And finally, appreciative practice means taking our work very seriously. We know we're dealing with a very difficult topic. So we take our work very seriously, but we try to take ourselves lightly. We try to find humor wherever we can because humor can be an antidote to humiliation. So here's my cartoon poking a little fun at the glass half full concept. It's a Far Side cartoon talking about the 4 basic personality types. We have the woman up in the corner who looks at the glass half full. She's always surprised. And then we have our friend with the glass half empty. And then we have the man in the lower corner who says, half full? No, no, wait. Half empty? No, half? What was the question? And finally our character in the other corner, hey, I ordered a cheeseburger. So, appreciative inquiry, we may take our work very seriously, but we do our best to help each other take ourselves lightly. And our main focus is trying to achieve what Jean Baker Miller calls the 5 good things of growth fostering relationships that we receive when we practice appreciative approach. When people are engaged in growth fostering relationships, they feel a sense of zest or energy for the work that they're doing that leads them to feel a mutual empowerment to take action on behalf of themselves and others that leads to greater clarity and knowledge about the other person, about the work they're doing, that leads to a sense of worth for all people involved and a desire for more connection. This is a virtuous cycle of connection that leads to at least a few of these benefits. People experience greater authenticity as they do their work. There's more engagement in their work. Their energy goes into the discussion of ideas. And the one that I find most important for me is a greater sense of creativity. As William Stafford, the poet peace worker, says, creativity can be a tremendous hidden river for our work. So appreciation is a great thing. It makes what's excellent in others belong to us as well. Peace building is an art. It is the art of human appreciation. And when we practice appreciation, we're not only reducing the risk of humiliation in our work, we are strengthening resilience in ourselves and others. So in this video, I tried to explain why we use this appreciative approach, especially to give you some idea why we start our meetings by reviewing and refreshing our understanding of how we engage in dignifying collaboration. I've tried to name what appreciative inquiry is and what it isn't, and offered some practical ideas about actions we can take to realize this appreciative approach. But you don't need to remember all of that. Appreciative inquiry is easy to start. It begins by bringing our sense of openness, curiosity, and awe and wonder into this work, into this community, focusing on what we can learn from each other and how we can help each other continue to work for equal dignity in the world, to continue to work for a world without humiliation. So let me wish you all the best with all of your appreciative inquiries as you go forward. I know you will have a great experience. And the time to start practicing appreciative inquiry is now. Bye.